It's done. It's done. It's finally done. Okay. Tea. Tea. I need a cup. I can take down my little light. Because I'm fancy like that. And shut it off. Tea, 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 tea. Tea. If you want to know a good place to get tea in Boise, I highly recommend Boise Co-op because they recently updated their loose leaf tea selection, and it's much better now. This is not from the co-op. This is from Winco. I don't know if you have a Winco where you are, but it's a cool place. I gotta get a spoon. But it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Cool place to go. Cool place to be. But yeah, if you want loose leaf tea, go to the co-op. That's the place that I recommend personally as an avid tea drinker. Anyway, I've got a whole story for you. Don't even worry about it. I spent about, man, I have a mess. I have a whole story that I spent a bunch of time writing. It's going to be great. But first, I must perform the ritual that is making a cup of tea. Because what better way to start off a video than with something cool, like making tea. If you're wondering, this is loose leaf lavender Earl Grey tea, and I boiled this water to 212 degrees, which is boiling point in Fahrenheit. Yeah, so I'm gonna let this brew for a little bit, but I didn't need this spoon. In the meantime, though, I have something to tell you about. I've got a little story, actually, a story from my life. I think I was in 8th grade. It was about 8th grade. That's when it was, and that was my first experience. Probably there was a STEM fair that came to our school, and they brought this big actuated bus. I learned that it's called an actuated bus while doing research for this video. But it's like the buses that have the little bendy thing in the middle so that they can be super long and fit a bunch of people or stuff in them. So they brought one of those to our school, which was cool because I'd never seen an actuated bus, not in a British TV show. So that was cool. But inside this bus, it was filled with all kinds of cool little gadgetry to waggle the mind. And little 8th grade me was fascinated. But there was everything from modular robots that you could put together with little like click-and-place blocks to kinetic sand. I think they had a little bowl where they had just kinetic sand. I don't know how that's tech, but they had it. And in the back, they also had 3D printers and this little plane thing. They had like a glider. Anyway, point is, all of that was fun and cool and interesting. But the thing that caught my eye, the thing that made my young mind go wow, was not in the bus at all. It was not. It was inside the school. So after walking out of the bus, I went to the second part of the fair, which was located inside the school, inside our design tech classroom, which was a place where, when I was in grade school, we made little projects and we learned about trebuchets, among other things. But it was fun. It was a fun class, and that's where they had the second part. And surrounded by all kinds of other interesting tech, there was little sphero balls rolling around. If you remember those, they were like little robot balls that would like roll around. It was cool, and you could do coding with them. And tucked away in the corner, sitting on a table, kind of all by itself, was this little cardboard box with little lenses in it. And I took interest. I walked up, my little 8th grade self, and one of the teacher assistants immediately noticed that I had interest, and they were quick to inform me that it was called Google Cardboard, and it was a really basic virtual reality headset, and I'd never I'd never heard of such a thing. I was like, virtual reality? You mean like uh, a book? I don't even know what I said, but I didn't know what it meant. I'd never seen that before. So the little student attendant like lifted it up to his eyes and he was like, you look through it like this and you see another world. And I was like, okay, maybe there's like you know when you look through the peephole of a door and on the other side if you can put a little model of like a room, and then if you look through the peephole of the door with the wide angle of the peephole lens, it looks like you're looking into a little room, and it's really cool and it's a fun trick to play on people that have peepholes. But it was not that. No, 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 no. I took this little cardboard box and I put it up to my eyes, and immediately I was transported into this other world. It was amazing. I was sitting in space. There was stars around me. It was I don't know, my heart started beating. It was really exciting. It was a completely new experience I'd never experienced before. I could look around, and when I looked to the left, there was this asteroid, and when I pointed that out, the student teacher assistant person was like, yeah, there's a little button on the side. If you press that, it'll make the asteroid explode. So I did, and it did, and it was so cool. It was so cool. I was granted, it was in very low resolution, and it was not amazing. I could tell that I wasn't in real space, but it was it was something I'd never experienced before. It was totally unreal, man. It was really cool. This is not done yet. I really would like it to be, but it will be. It will be done. But I only ended up spending about 15 seconds with the demo, but those 15 seconds they left an imprint on me. I switched locations because it got dark. Chances are, if you've tried VR before, at least your first experience was also with a Google Cardboard headset. And that makes sense. That's kind of the whole point of Cardboard. It was supposed to be a demo headset. A way to provide the absolute minimum required specs for a person to try virtual reality. And it was Google's attempt at showing the technology to vastly more people by making it cheaper. This meant that up until about 2018, the only people really involved in VR were enthusiasts. And the problem with Google Cardboard being so minimal is simply the fact that VR at this quality is not very compelling. It's pretty bad, actually. Good for a demo, yeah, but not really useful in any practical context. And hey, to put credit where credit's due, they did accomplish that. Because of Google Cardboard, millions of people got to try virtual reality that never would have before because of the prohibitive price. But the trouble with Google Cardboard is the same reason that it was so prevalent. It's cheap. Very cheap. And to put it into perspective, Google Cardboard was $20 when it came out and was sold. And there was about 10 million copies sold before they discontinued it. But that is a far cry from the hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, that other dedicated VR headsets cost at the time, around 2016. Not to mention the fact that most of these incredibly expensive headsets also required a pretty beefy PC to run off of. Tragically, this lackluster, half-baked demo was, for many people, their first and last time trying VR. And for this reason, many VR enthusiasts credit Google for ruining the public image of VR early on. Okay, back to me. It wasn't until about 10th grade that I got the opportunity to try VR again. But obviously, since price was such a big roadblock for me, I had to find other ways of getting into the hobby. So I'm at Goodwill, right? And I found a Google Cardboard headset. That just goes to show how prevalent they were, that people were just giving them away. So I found one, and I brought it home excited. I downloaded the demo from my phone. I put my phone to the app, and wow, for 10 minutes, and then the demo was done, and that was the end. it was very obvious that it was supposed to be a demo headset only, and that was I was pretty disappointed, frankly. But I wasn't done. I wanted to get the absolute most use out of this as I could, because I was still really excited by the idea of having a headset and being able to use that. So I downloaded a modded version of the YouTube app. It wasn't modded. Google produced it for a different thing, but it was the VR version of YouTube, right? Where you could put YouTube into a Google Cardboard-like headset and watch a YouTube video in that context. So I did that. I hooked rubber bands and taped them around the headset so that I could wear it without having to hold it up to my face. I had like a charging thing that I hooked up so that, because the phone would die otherwise, so I hooked up the charger so that it would sit on my face. And it was awful. It was not good. The resolution was terrible, and it was not fun at all to watch a YouTube video in that context. But I did it. I tried it. It wasn't fun. I tried a couple other things too, but it all sort of led down the same path of low resolution, latency, and battery life kind of it fell apart. It wasn't good. I tried, it wasn't good. Fast forward to late 10th grade, early 11th grade, I finally decided to get myself a headset. It was phone-based, but I did it. And I purchased a Google Daydream headset. And it was much better. It was much better. It worked with my Google phone when I had that, and it's the same thing. You put your phone into the headset, and it has the two little plastic lenses, but software support was just much better, and it came with a 3 DoF track, 3 degrees of freedom, so you can't move around, but you can move in place, so you can swivel your head around, but you can't move up and down, side to side. This was also tracked that way, so rather than seeing it move around in space, it was more like a laser pointer, and you could point at things and click things, but that little piece of not having to click with the headset, having it be in a controller, brought all kinds of functionality. It was very cool. This was a much more usable headset. It was very cool, but about a few months after I purchased mine, Google discontinued the software support for it. They stopped giving it updates, and eventually the App Store for Daydream also stopped working, and slowly, one by one, apps kind of stopped working as well. Now the YouTube app works on here, but the same thing is true. The resolution is just not great. It's not a fun experience to watch YouTube on here for very long at all. It's much more comfortable, but again, that's where I'm at. And a nice segue, my computer turning on just randomly, I wasn't done. I still wanted to use this. I paid like $70 for it, which isn't that much for a headset, but I wanted to get the most use out of it. So I downloaded an app called Trinus VR, which allowed me to hook up the headset in a way to my computer and run Steam VR on here. Okay, my camera died, but I'm back and I made tea water, so... Boop. Okay, nice. So that's done now. Anyway, to make a long story short, I got this working with Steam VR, but it's not ideal. Claire, it's not that funny. It's not ideal. Here, let's do it one more. Actually, we can't redo the shot right now because I just poured the water and it's too late. Don't mess with anything in the camera. Don't do it. Don't do it. Claire, you're my handy candy man. Camera man. Anyway, can't redo the shot, so we're just gonna go with it. Yeah, I got it to work with Steam VR, but the resolution is not great, and also my computer doesn't really have a GPU that is ideal for running it. So that's kind of where I am. That's as far as my expertise take me, because that is where my experience ends. But I want to be able to tell you more about what... It's not that funny, Claire. I wanted to be able to tell you more about what is cool about VR. So I talked to my friend Brandon, who owns Quest 2. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that is right now. Cool. Stop the camera.
How?
Stop the... Okay, one more thing I forgot to mention. Very important. So, Oculus Quest, the first Quest headset, very important headset, stepping stone headset. Meta, formerly Facebook, in 2014 bought the very well-known VR company Oculus. In 2018, they announced their first standalone headset, the Oculus Quest. So standalone meaning it does not require a computer to work. So all of the computing power is natively inside of the device for it to run properly. But what's significant about the Oculus Quest is it was not the first, but it was one of the first 6 DOF tracked standalone headsets, meaning rather than this headset, which is tracked in 3 degrees of freedom, only swiveling your head around, the Oculus Quest and its controllers were tracked in 6 degrees of freedom, meaning you could move around in your space and everything was tracked, which was that's hugely significant. But it came at a price of $399, which is almost $400, and even though that is much cheaper than purchasing a PC that could run VR and a headset, potentially, it still was a little bit too expensive for most consumers to really get into it and get excited about it. So it didn't sell amazingly, but it still was a very important headset. It sold. But more importantly, it marked a new space in VR, which was the fully VR-ready standalone headset. Enter the Oculus, now Meta, Quest 2, the successor to the original Quest. Announced in October 2020 with a starting price of $299, it was a better headset than the first generation almost across the board, featuring a higher resolution display, a much faster chip, and most importantly, a $100 price cut from the previous model. This, paired with the fact that it came out right before holiday shopping season, meant that this headset sold extremely well. It took the VR industry by storm, and as of September 2023, which I checked, the Quest 2 accounts for just over 41% of headset owners on Steam VR. That is incredibly significant. That being said, that doesn't mean the Quest 2 is some perfect child. There were a lot of not-so-great things that happened both leading up to its release and after. From firing key contributors to user data collection concerns and criticism of Meta's anti-competitive practices, i.e. just buying game studios and only releasing content for their platforms. It's not all pretty, but at the end of the day, Meta and the Quest 2 has still contributed hugely to bring VR to the wider public, and that's a good thing. Virtual reality still isn't mainstream, but it's getting a lot closer to it, and at least for me, that's exciting. We're getting to see competition in this place that we just didn't see 4 or even 3 years ago. And sure, there's plenty of things to be wary about as this technology becomes more and more prevalent in our daily lives, but we have a lot of good people giving the right kind of healthy criticism right now. And the world of VR is filled with individual developers and makers who work with VR from a place of fascination and passion. I think as long as we remember that this is a community and hold true to the value in that, not letting it get taken up by some big corporation, then this technology is just going to keep getting better and better. You know, we can't redo the shot right now because I just poured the water and it's too late. Don't mess with anything. It's recording. It is recording.